Chapter 9 Working Capital Management, Accounts Receivable and Payable. Chapter Learning Objectives. Upon completion of this chapter, you will be able to 1. Explain how to establish and implement a credit policy for accounts receivable. Second bullet, explain the administration involved in collecting amounts owing from accounts receivable. Third, explain the pros and cons of offering early settlement discounts to accounts receivable. Fourth, calculate the financial implications of offering discounts for early settlement. Fifth, define and explain the features of factoring. Sixth, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of factoring. Seventh, define and explain the features of invoice discounting. Next bullet, suggest and evaluate suitable techniques for managing accounts receivable within a scenario question. Next bullet, explain the factors involved in the effective management of trade credit. Next bullet, calculate the effective cost of an early settlement discount offered on an accounts payable. Next bullet, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of trade credit as a source of short-term finance. Next bullet, explain the specific factors to be considered when managing foreign accounts receivable and payable. PER. One of the PER performance objectives, PO10, is to manage and control working capital. You manage cash and working capital effectively, planning for any shortfall or surplus, including receivables, payables, and inventories. Working through this chapter should help you understand how to demonstrate that objective. Accounts payable and receivable, accounts receivable, credit policy, factoring and invoice discounting, credit policy, balancing act, giving discounts, cost of financing receivable, setting limits, assessing creditworthiness, collecting overdue debts, monitoring the system, accounts payable, balancing act, discounts. You should have a good understanding of the nature of accounts receivable and payable from your previous studies, for instance from the ACCA Financial Accounting exam. Section 1. The objectives of accounts receivable management. The optimum level of trade credit extended represents a balance between two factors. First bullet, profit improvement from sales obtained by allowing credit. Second, the cost of credit allowed. The balancing act, receivable balancing act, liquidity, collecting sales receipts as quickly as possible to reduce the cost of financing the receivables balance. Profitability, extending the credit period to customers to encourage additional sales. Remember, this trade-off is a key factor in determining the company's working capital investment. Section 2. Accounts receivable, establishing a credit policy. Management must establish a credit policy. For accounts receivable, the company's policy will be influenced by: first, demand for products. Second, competitors' terms. Third, risk of irrecoverable debts. Fourth, financing cost. Fifth, cost of credit control. Why have a credit policy? A firm must establish a policy for credit terms given to its customers. Ideally, the firm would want to obtain cash with each order delivered, but that is impossible unless substantial settlement or cash discounts are offered as an inducement. It must be recognized that credit terms are part of the firm's marketing policy. If the trade or industry has adopted a common practice, then it is probably wise to keep in step with it. A lenient credit policy may well attract additional customers, but at a disproportionate increase in cost. A credit policy has 4 key aspects. Number 1, assessing creditworthiness. Second, credit limits. Third, invoice promptly and collect overdue debts. Fourth, monitor the credit system. This is a useful structure to adopt for examination questions that ask about the management of receivables. Assessing creditworthiness. A firm should assess the creditworthiness of first bullet, all new customers immediately. Second bullet, existing customers periodically. Information may come from first bullet, bank references, second bullet, trade references, third bullet, competitors, fourth bullet, published information, fifth bullet, credit reference agencies, sixth bullet, company sales records, last bullet, credit scoring. Assessing creditworthiness. To minimize the risk of irrecoverable debts occurring, a company should investigate the creditworthiness of all new customers' credit risk and should review that of existing customers from time to time, especially if they request that their credit limit should be raised. Information about a customer's credit rating can be obtained from a variety of sources. These include first bullet, bank references. A customer's permission must be sought. These tend to be fairly standardized in the UK and so are not perhaps as useful as they could be. Second bullet, trade references. Suppliers already giving credit to the customer can give useful information about how good the customer is at paying bills on time. There is a danger that the customer will only nominate those suppliers that are being paid on time. Next bullet, competitors. In some industries such as insurance, competitors share information on customers including creditworthiness. Next bullet, published information. The customer's own annual accounts and reports will give some idea of the general financial position of the company and its liquidity. Next bullet, credit reference agencies. Agencies such as Dun & Bradstreet publish general financial details of many companies together with a credit rating. They will also produce a special report on a company. If requested, the information is provided for a fee. Company's own sales records. Next bullet, for an existing customer, the sales ledger will show how prompt a payer the company is, although they cannot show the ability of the customer to pay. Next bullet is credit scoring. Indicators such as family circumstances, home ownership, occupation, and age can be used to predict likely creditworthiness. This is useful when extending credit to the public where little other information is available. A variety of software packages is available which can assist with credit scoring. Credit limits. Credit limits should be set to reflect both the first, amounts of credit available, second, length of time allowed before payment is due. The ledger account should be monitored to take account of orders in the pipeline as well as invoice sales before further credit is given to ensure that limits are not breached. Invoicing and collecting overdue debts. A credit period only begins once an invoice is received, so prompt invoicing is essential. If debts go overdue, the risk of default increases. Therefore, a system of follow-up procedure is required. Invoicing and collecting overdue debts. The longer a debt is allowed to run, the higher the probability of eventual default. A system of follow-up procedures is required, bearing in mind the risk of offending a valued customer to such an extent that their business is lost. First, reminder letter. Second, telephone calls. Third, withholding supplies. Fourth, debt collectors. Fifth, legal action. Techniques for chasing overdue debts include the following. First bullet, reminder letters. These are often regarded as being a relatively poor way of obtaining payment, as many customers simply ignore them. Sending reminders by email is usually more productive than using the post. Next bullet, telephone calls. These are more expensive than reminder letters, which can be automatically generated by most accounting systems. But where large sums are involved, they can be an efficient way of speeding up payment. Next bullet, withholding supplies. Putting customers on the stop list for further orders or spare parts can encourage rapid settlement of debts. Next bullet, debt collection agencies and trade associations. These offer debt collection services on a fixed fee basis or on no collection, no charge terms. The quality of service provided varies considerably and care should be taken in selecting an agent. Legal action. This is often seen as a last resort. A solicitor's letter often prompts payment and many cases do not go to court. Court action is usually not cost effective, but it can discourage other customers from delaying payment. Monitoring the system. The position of receivables should be regularly reviewed as part of managing overall working capital and corrective action taken when needed. Methods include first bullet, age analysis, second, ratios, third, statistical data. Monitoring the system. Management will require regular information to take corrective action and to measure the impact of giving credit on working capital investment. Typical management reports on the credit system will include the following points. First bullet, age analysis of outstanding debts. Second bullet, ratios compared with the previous period or target to indicate trends in credit levels and the incidence of overdue and irrecoverable debts. Third, statistical data to identify causes of default and the incidence of irrecoverable debts among different classes of customer and types of trade. Accounts receivable calculations, cost of financing receivable, key working. Finance cost is equal to receivable balance into interest or overdraft rate. Receivable balance is credit balance into receivable days upon 365. Test your understanding 1. Cost of financing receivable. Paisley Company has sales of $20 million for the previous year. Receivable at the year end were $4 million and the cost of financing receivable is covered by an overdraft at the interest rate of 12% per annum. Required. A. Calculate the receivable days for Paisley. B. Calculate the annual cost of financing receivables. Answer. TYU1. Cost of financing receivable. A. Receivable days is $4 million upon $20 million into 365, so 73 days. Calculate the annual cost of financing receivable. Cost of financing receivable is $4 million into 12% per annum, so $4,80,000 is the answer. Answer TYU1 complete. Early settlement discounts. Cash discounts are given to encourage early payments by customers. The cost of the discount is balanced against the savings the company receives from having less capital tied up due to a lower receivable balance and a shorter average collection period. Discounts may also reduce the number of irrecoverable debts. The calculation of the annual cost can be expressed as a formula. Annual cost of discount is equal to 1 plus discount upon amount left to pay, bracket closed, number of raised to power number of periods minus 1, where number of periods is equal to 365 oblique 52 oblique 12 upon number of days oblique weeks oblique months earlier the money is received. Notice that the annual cost calculation is always based on the amount left to pay, that is, the amount net of discount. If the cost of offering the discount exceeds the rate of overdraft interest, then the discount should not be offered. Test your understanding 2. Early settlement discounts 1. A company is offering a cash discount of 2.5% to receivables if they agree to pay debts within 1 month. The usual credit period taken is 3 months. What is the effective annualized cost of offering the discount and should it be offered if the bank would loan the company at 18% per annum? Answer TYU2. Early settlement discounts 1. Discount as a percentage of amount paid is equal to 2.5 upon 97.5 is equal to 2.56%. Saving is 2 months and there are 12 upon 2 is equal to 6 periods in a year. Annualized cost of discount percentage is 1 plus 0.0256 bracket closed raised to power 6 minus 1 is equal to 0.1638 or 16.38%. The loan rate is 18%. It would therefore be worthwhile offering the discount. Answer complete. The above calculation gives a quick and easy way to evaluate the annual cost and reach a decision on whether to offer an early settlement discount. This method should be used in all situations where all customers are expected to take advantage of the discount, or when the question does not specify the expected take-up, as in Test Your Understanding 2. However, in many scenarios, you may be provided with more in-depth information, in particular, information relating to the proportion of customers that are expected to take up the offer. In these situations, it is necessary to perform a longer calculation. The calculation involves comparing the monetary cost of offering the discount, the cash that will no longer be received, with the benefit that will be received, the lower financing cost resulting from the reduced receivable balance. Test Your Understanding 3. Early settlement discounts 2. Paisley Company has sales of $20 million for the previous year, receivables at the year end of $4 million, and the cost of financing receivable is covered by an overdraft at the interest rate of 12% per annum. It is now considering offering a cash discount of 2% for payments of debts within 10 days. Should it be introduced if 40% of customers will take up the discount? Answer. TYU 3. Early settlement discounts. Second, to determine if the early settlement discount should be introduced, a comparison must be made between the cost and the benefit. Cost: 20 million of revenue into 40% take-up into 2% discount is $160,000. Benefit: the benefit is a reduction in the receivables balance which will result in a higher cash balance, thereby reducing interest payable, say, on an overdraft balance. The value can be found by number 1. Calculating the current level of receivables and receivable days. Second, calculating the cost of financing this. Third, calculating the new level of receivables and receivable days. Fourth, calculating the cost of financing this new level. Fifth, comparing the old cost with the new cost to determine the benefit. Step 1. Calculate the current level of receivables and receivable days. The current receivable balance is $4 million as per the question. This implies receivable days of $4 million upon $20 million into 365 is equal to 73 days. Step 2. Calculate the cost of financing this. $4 million into 12% interest, $480,000 per annum. Step 3. Calculate the new level of receivables and receivable days. Since 40% of customers will now pay within 10 days and the remaining 60% will continue paying as before, that is taking 73 days, the new level of receivables can be assumed to be 10 upon 365 into 20 million into 40%, 219,178. It will be 219,178, and 73 upon 365 into 20 million into 60%, $2.4 million. Total $26,19,178. Step 4. Calculate the cost of financing this new level. 26,19,178 into 12% interest, $314,301. Compare the old cost with the new cost to determine the benefit. The benefit of the lower receivable balance is therefore 480,000 minus 314,301, 165,699. Comparison of cost and benefit. Now we can compare the cost of offering the discount with the benefit. Cost is 160,000, benefit is 165,699, net benefit is 5,699. The conclusion is that this discount should be offered. Answer complete. Section 4. Accounts receivable, invoice discounting and factoring. Invoice discounting and factoring are both ways of speeding up the receipt of funds from accounts receivable. Invoice discounting. Invoice discounting is a method of raising finance against the security of receivables. without using the sales ledger administration services of a factor. While specialist invoice discounting firms exist, this is a service also provided by a factoring company. Selected invoices are used as security against which the company may borrow funds, like a house being used as a security for a mortgage. This is a temporary source of finance as the receivable invoices are only temporary, repayable when the debt is cleared. The key advantage of invoice discounting is that it is a confidential service and the customer need not know about it. In some way, it is similar to the financing part of the factoring service without control of credit passing to the factor. Ensure you can explain the difference between factoring and invoice discounting and the situations where one may be more appropriate than the other. Invoice discounting typical arrangement. Number 1. The company sell goods to the customer payable in 30 days. Number 2. The company borrows up to 80% of the value of the debt. Number 3. The company receives the payment. Number 4. The company pays the invoice discounter the amount borrowed plus interest. Invoice discounting is a method of raising finance against the security of receivables without using the sales ledger administration services of a factor. With invoice discounting, the business retains control over its sales ledger and confidentiality in its dealing with customers. Firms of factors will also provide invoice discounting to clients. The method works as follows. Now, first bullet, the business sends out invoices, statements and reminders in the normal way and collects the debts. With confidential invoice discounting, its customers are unaware that the business is using invoice discounting. Second bullet, the invoice discounter provides cash to the business for a proportion of the value of the invoice as soon as it receives a copy of the invoice and agrees to discount it. The discounter will advance cash up to 80% of face value. Third bullet, when the business eventually collects the payment from its customer, the debt is removed from the loan advance amount, effectively meaning that the business pays back what was advanced from the invoice discounter. Invoice discounting can help a business that is trying to improve its cash flows but does not want a factor to administer its sales ledger and collect its debts. It is therefore equivalent to the financing service provided by a factor. Administration charges for this service are around 0.5 to 1% of a client's revenue. It is more risky than factoring since the client retains control over its credit policy. Consequently, such facilities are usually confined to established companies with high sales revenue and the business must be profitable. Finance costs are usually in the range 3 to 4% above base rate, although larger companies and those which arrange credit insurance may receive better terms. The invoice discounter will check the sales ledger of the client regularly, perhaps every 3 months, to check that its debt collection procedures are adequate. Illustration of the invoice discounting process. At the beginning of August, Basildon PLC sells goods for a total value of $300,000 to regular customers but decides that it requires payment earlier than the agreed 30 days credit period for these invoices. Discounter agrees to finance 80% of their face value, that is $240,000, at an interest cost of 9% per annum. The invoices were due for payment in early September but were subsequently settled in mid-September, exactly 45 days after the initial transactions. The invoice discounter's service charge is 1% of invoice value. A special account is set up with a bank into which all payments are made. The sequence of cash flows is: August, Basildon receives cash advance of $240,000. Mid-September, customers pay $300,000. Invoice discounter receives the full $300,000 paid into the special bank account. Basildon receives the balance payable less charges, service fee 1% into $300,000, $3,000 is one charge. Finance cost is 240,000 into 9% into 45 upon 365, 2,663. Total charges 5663. Basildon receives balance of payment from customers 60,000. Less charges 5663, 54,337. Summary. Total receipts by Basildon 240,000 plus 54,337, 294,337. Invoice discounters, fees and interest charges 5663. Total amount invoiced is $300,000. Answer complete. Factoring. Factoring is the outsourcing of the credit control department to a third party. The debt of the company are effectively sold to a factor, normally owned by a bank. The factor takes on the responsibility of collecting the debt for a fee. The company can choose some or all of the following three services offered by the factor. 1. Debt collection and administration. Recourse. The company bears the cost of bad debts, or non-recourse. The factor bears the cost of bad debts. Second, financing. Third, credit insurance. These are of particular value to 1. Smaller firms. 2. Fast-growing firms. Make sure you can discuss the various services offered and remember that non-recourse factoring is more expensive as the factor bears the cost of any irrecoverable debts. A recent exam question tested candidate students' knowledge that under non-recourse factoring, the cost of any bad debts previously borne by the company would reduce to zero under the factoring arrangement. Factoring, debt collection and administration. The factor takes over the whole of the company's sales ledger, issuing invoices and collecting debts. Financing provision. In addition to the above, the factor will advance up to 80% of the value of a debt to the company, the remainder minus finance costs being paid when the debts are collected. The factor becomes a source of finance. Finance costs are usually 1.5% to 3% above bank base rate and are charged on a daily basis. Credit insurance. The factor agrees to insure the irrecoverable debts of the client. The factor would then determine to whom the company was able to offer credit. Some companies realize that although it is necessary to extend trade credit to customers for competitive reasons, they need payment earlier than agreed in order to assist their own cash flow. Factors exist to help such companies. Factoring is most suitable for first bullet, small and medium-sized firms which cannot afford sophisticated credit and sales accounting systems, and second, firms that are expanding rapidly. These often have a substantial and growing investment in inventory and receivables which can be turned into cash by factoring the debts. Factoring debts can be a more flexible source of financing working capital than an overdraft or bank loan. Factoring is primarily designed to allow companies to accelerate cash flow, providing finance against outstanding trade receivables. This improves cash flow and liquidity. Factoring can be arranged on either a without recourse basis or a with recourse basis. When factoring is without recourse or non-recourse, the factor provides protection for the client against irrecoverable debts. The factor has no comeback or recourse to the client if a customer defaults. When a customer of the client fails to pay a debt, the factor bears the loss and the client receives the money from the debt. When the service is with recourse factoring, the client must bear the loss from any irrecoverable debt and so has to reimburse the factor for any money it has already received for the debt. Credit protection is provided only when the service is non-recourse, and this is obviously more costly. Typical factoring arrangements: administration and debt collection. 1. The company, there are three parties: company, customer and factor. First step would be the company sells goods to the customer payable in 30 days. The company sells, second step, the company sells the debt to the factor. Third, the customer pays the factor after 30 days. Fourth, the factor pays the company less in administration fees. If it is including financing, again there are three parties: company, customer and factor. First step would be the company sells goods to the customer payable in 30 days. Second step, the company sells debt to the factor. Third step, up to 80% of the debt is paid to the company in advance. Fourth step, the customer pays the factor after 30 days. Fifth, the factor pays the company the balance less in administration fees and finance fees. Advantages and disadvantages. Advantages. First advantage is saving in administration costs. Second is reduction in the need for management control. Third, particularly useful for small and fast-growing businesses where the credit control department may not be able to keep pace with the volume growth. Disadvantages: number one, likely to be costlier than an efficiently run internal credit control department. Second, factoring has a bad reputation associated with failing companies. Using a factor may suggest your company has money worries. Third, customer may not wish to deal with a factor. Fourth, once you start factoring, it is difficult to revert easily to an internal credit control system. Fifth, the company may give up the opportunity to decide to whom credit may be given. Non-recourse factoring. Benefits and problems with factoring. The benefits of factoring are as follows. First bullet, a business improves its cash flow because the factor provides for up to 80% or more of debts within 24 hours of invoices being issued. A bank providing an overdraft facility secured against a company's unpaid invoices will normally only lend up to 50% of the invoice value. Factors will provide 80% or so because they set credit limits and are responsible for collecting the debts. Second, a factor saves the company the administration cost of keeping the sales ledgers up to date and the cost of debt collection. Third, a business can use the factor's credit control system to assess the creditworthiness of both new and existing customers. Fourth, non-recourse factoring is a convenient way of obtaining insurance against irrecoverable debts. Problems with factoring. First bullet, although factors provide valuable services, companies are sometimes wary about using them. A possible problem about factoring is that the intervention of the factor between the factor's client and the debtor company could endanger trading relationships and damage goodwill. Customers might prefer to deal with the business, not a factor. Second bullet, when a non-recourse factoring service is used, the client loses control over decision about granting credit to its customers. Third bullet, for this reason, some clients prefer to retain the risk of irrecoverable debts and opt for a with-recourse factoring service. With this type of service, the client and not the factor decides whether extreme action, legal action, should be taken against a non-payer. Fourth bullet, on top of this, when suppliers and customers of the client find out that client is using a factor to collect debts, it may arouse fears that company is beset by cash flow problems, raising fears about its viability. If so, its suppliers may impose more stringent payment terms, thus negating the benefits provided by the factor. Last bullet, using a factor can create problems with customers who may resent being chased for payment by a third party and may question the supplier's financial stability. Answer. Okay. Test your understanding. 4. Factoring arrangements. Eden Company is a medium-sized company producing a range of engineering products which it sells to wholesale distributors. Recently, its sales have begun to rise rapidly due to economic recovery. However, it is concerned about its liquidity position and is looking at ways of improving cash flow. Its sales are $16 million per annum and the average receivables are $3.3 million. representing about 75 days of sales. One way of speeding up collection from receivables is to use a factor. Required: determine the relative cost and benefits of using the factor in each of the following scenarios. A. The factor will operate on a service-only basis, administering and collecting payment from add-in company's customers. This is expected to generate administrative savings of $100,000 each year. The factor has undertaken to pay outstanding debts after 45 days, regardless of whether the customers have actually paid or not. The factor will make a service charge of 1.75% of add-in company's revenue. Add-in company can borrow at an interest rate of 8% per annum. B. It is now considering a factoring arrangement with a different factor where 80% of the book value of invoices is paid immediately, with finance cost charge on the advance at 10% per annum. Suppose that this factor will charge 1% of sales as their fees for managing the sales ledger, that there will be administrative savings of $100,000 as before, but that outstanding balances will be paid after 75 days, that is, there is no change in the typical payment pattern by customers this time. Answer TYU 4. Factoring arrangements. A. Reduction in receivable days 75 minus 45 30 days. Reduction in receivables 30 upon 365 into 16 million 13,15,068. Savings in finance cost 13,15,068 into 8% $105,205. Administration savings $100,000. Service charge is 1.75% into 16 million 2,80,000. Summary: service charge 2,80,000. Cost: finance cost saved by reducing receivable 105,000. Administration cost saved 100,000. Net annual cost of the service is 75,000. Negative: add-in will have to balance this cost against the security offered by improved cash flows and greater liquidity. B part: cost of factoring and savings. Sales ledger administration 1% into 16 million, so $160,000. Administration cost saving in savings column $100,000. Cost of factoring finance 10% into 80% into 3.3 million, $264,000. Overdraft finance cost 8% into 80% into 3.3 million, 211,200 savings. Total will be 4,24,000 cost of factoring and savings is 3,11,200. Net cost of factoring is 1,12,800. As before, the firm will have to balance this cost against the security offered by improved cash flow and greater liquidity. Answer complete. Accounts payable. Managing trade credit. Trade credit is the simplest and most important source of short-term finance for many companies. Again, it is a balancing act between liquidity and profitability. The balancing act: payables balancing act, liquidity, delaying payments to suppliers to obtain a free source of finance. Profitability: delaying too long may cause difficulty for the company in the long term. By delaying payment to suppliers, companies face possible problems. Suppliers may refuse to supply in future, first bullet. Second bullet, supplier may only supply on a cash basis. Third bullet, there may be loss of reputation. Fourth bullet, supplier may increase price in future. Trade credit is normally seen as a free source of finance. While this is normally true, it may be that the supplier offers a discount for early payment. In this case, delaying payment is no longer free since the cost will be the lost discount. In the examination, you need to be able to calculate the cost of this discount foregone. It can be done using the same techniques we saw under accounts receivable. Test your understanding 5. Discount for early payment. One supplier has offered a discount to Box Company of 2% on an invoice for $7,500 if payment is made within 1 month rather than the 3 months normally taken to pay. If Box overdraft rate is 10% per annum, is it financially worthwhile for them to accept the discount and pay early? Answer TYU 5. Discount saves 2% of $7,500, that is $150. Financed by overdraft for extra 2 months in order to pay early. Overdraft fees saved if discount not accepted, $7,500 into 10% into 3 by 12, $187.50. Overdraft fees saved if discount accepted, 7,500 minus 150 into 10% into 1 by 12, 61.25. Savings lost, 187.50 minus 61.25, 126.25. Net savings, 150 minus 126.25, 23.275. It is worth accepting the discount. Alternatively, discount as a percentage of amount paid, 150 upon 7350, 2.04%. Savings is 2 months and there are 12.26 periods in a year. Annualized cost of not taking the discount and therefore borrowing from the supplier is 1 plus 0.0204 raised to power 6 minus 1.1288, 12.88%. The overdraft rate is 10%. It would be cheaper to borrow the money from the bank to pay early and accept the discount. Answer complete. Test your understanding 6. Work out the equivalent annual cost of following credit terms. 1.75% discount for payment within 3 weeks. Alternatively, full payment must be made within 8 weeks of the invoice date. Assume there are 50 weeks in a year. Hint, consider a $100 invoice. Test your understanding 6. Answer equivalent annual cost of discount. Step 1. Work out the discount available and the amount due if discount were taken. Discount available on a $100 invoice, 1.75% to 100, $1.75. Amount due after discount, 100 into 1.75, 100 minus 1.75, 98.25. Step 2. The effective interest cost of not taking the discount is 1.75 upon 98.25 is equal to 0.0178 for an 8 minus 3 is equal to 5 week period. Step 3. Calculate the equivalent annual rate. There are 10 5 weeks period in a year. The equivalent interest annual rate is 1 plus 0.018 raised to power 10 minus 1 is equal to 0.195 or 19.5%. Answer complete. Trade payables. Under trade credit, a firm is able to obtain goods or services from a supplier without immediate payment, the supplier accepting that the firm will pay at a later date. Trade credit periods vary from industry to industry and each industry will have what is generally accepted norm, which would be from 7 days upwards. The usual terms of credit range from 4 weeks to the period between the date of purchase and the end of the month following the month of purchase. However, considerable scope for flexibility exists and longer credit periods are sometimes offered, particularly where the type of business activity requires a long period to convert materials into saleable products, for example, farming. A proportion of the firm's suppliers will normally offer early settlement discount, which should be taken up where possible by ensuring prompt payment within the specified terms where settlement discount is allowed. However, if the firm is short of funds, it might wish to take maximum use of the credit period allowed by suppliers regardless of the settlement discounts offered. It is a mistake to reduce working capital by holding on to the creditor's money for a longer period than is allowed, as in the long term this will affect the supplier's willingness to supply goods and raw materials and cause further embarrassment to the firm. Favorable credit terms are one of the several factors that influence the choice of a supplier. Furthermore, the act of accepting settlement discount has an opportunity cost. The cost, that is the cost of finance obtained from another source to replace that not being obtained from creditors. While trade credit may be seen as a source of free credit, there will be costs associated with extending credit taken beyond the norm, loss discount, loss of supplier goodwill, more stringent terms for future sales. In order to compare the cost of different sources of finance, all costs are usually converted to a rate per annum basis. The cost of extended trade credit is usually measured by loss of discount, but the calculation of its cost is complicated by such variables as the number of alternative sources of supply and the general economic conditions. Certain assumptions have to be made concerning a. the maximum delay in payment that can be achieved before the supply of goods is withdrawn by the supplier, and b. the availability of alternative sources of supply. Section 6. Accounts receivable and payable, managing foreign trade. Overseas accounts receivable and payable bring additional risk that needs to be managed. Export credit risk is the risk of failure or delay in collecting payments due from foreign customers. Foreign exchange risk is the risk that the value of the currency will change between the date of the contract and the date of settlement. For more details, see Chapter 13. Risk of overseas trade. While all of the basic management principles and techniques discussed so far apply equally to overseas receivables and payables, there are additional risks that will need to be managed, including first bullet, export credit risk, and second bullet, foreign exchange transactions exposure. Possible causes of loss from export credit risk which apply to all export trade of whatever size include the following: illiquidity or insolvency of the customer. This also occurs in domestic trading. When an export customer cannot pay, however, suppliers have extra problems in protecting their positions in a foreign legal and banking system. Bankruptcy or failure of a bank in the remittance chain. A poorly specified remittance channel. Next bullet, inconvertibility of the customer's currency and lack of access to the currency in which payment is due. This can be caused by deliberate exchange controls or by an unplanned lack of foreign exchange in the customer's central bank. Next bullet, political risk. Their causes can be internal, change of regime, civil war, or external war or blockade to the country concerned. Exporters can protect themselves against these risks by the following means. First, use banks in both countries to act as the collecting channel for the remittance and to control the shipping documents so that they are only released against payment or acceptance of negotiable instruments, bills of exchange or promissory notes. Second bullet, commit the customer's bank through an international letter of credit ILC. Third bullet, require the ILC to be confirmed, effectively guaranteed by a first-class bank in the exporter country. This makes the ILC a confirmed ILC, CILC. Obtain support from third parties, for example, get a guarantee of payment from a local bank. Second, get a letter from the local finance ministry or central bank confirming availability of foreign currency. Take out export credit cover. Next bullet, use an intermediary such as a confirming export finance, factoring or forfeiting house to handle the problems on their behalf, or possibly by giving no credit or selling only through agents who accept the credit risk, del creditor agents, and are themselves financially strong. None of these devices will enable the exporter to escape from certain hard facts of life. First bullet, the need to avoid giving credit to uncreditworthy customers. Weak customers cannot obtain an ILC from their own bank, nor would they be cleared for credit by credit insurer or intermediary. Second bullet, the need to negotiate secure payment terms, procedures and mechanisms which customers do not find congenial. An ILC and especially a CILC are costly to customers and restrict their flexibility. If they are short of cash at the end of the month, they must still pay out if their bank is committed. Second bullet, exporters can only collect under a letter of credit if they present exactly the required documents. They will not be able to do this if they have sent the goods by air and the credit requires shipping documents, or if they need to produce the customer's inspection certificates and the customer engineer is mysteriously unavailable to inspect or sign. Second, the last bullet, the need to insist that payment is in a convertible currency and in a form that the customer's authorities will permit to become effective as a remittance to where the exporter needs to have the funds, usually in their own country. Often this means making the sale subject to clearance under exchange controls or import licensing regulations. Introductory points about foreign exchange. Many companies trade in foreign currencies, either buying from abroad in a foreign currency or denominating sales to export customers in a foreign currency. If so, they might need to buy foreign currency to pay a supplier or convert foreign currency receipts into domestic currency. Like domestic trade, foreign trade is arranged on credit terms. Companies usually know in advance what foreign currency will they need to pay out and what currency they will be receiving. Foreign exchange risk arises in these situations. 1. If a company has to obtain foreign currency at a future date to make a payment, there is a risk that the cost of buying the currency will rise from what it would cost now if the exchange rate moves and the currency strengthens in value. Second bullet, if a company will want to convert foreign currency earnings into a domestic currency at a future date, there is a risk that the value of the earnings will fall from its current value if the exchange rate moves and the current currency falls in value. Exposure to these risks of adverse changes in an exchange rate are known as foreign exchange transaction exposure. These exposure can be hedged, reduced or offset. The methods available to hedge the risks are covered in Chapter 13. In a question that deals with overseas receivables and payables, remember to consider export credit risk and foreign transaction exposure as well as the normal points on the management of receivables and payables. Management of foreign accounts receivable. Foreign accounts receivable present some additional challenges to a business that are not present with domestic based customers. It is harder for a business to pursue any overdue amounts from a business in another country with a different legal system. One option for a business is to simply trust the foreign customer to pay within the stated credit period without demanding additional security, a method known as open account. This open means the business faces a level of non-payment risk that some businesses may find unacceptable. Reducing investment in foreign accounts receivable. A company can reduce its investment in foreign accounts receivable by asking for full or part payment in advance of supplying goods. However, this may be resisted by consumers, particularly if competitors do not ask for payment upfront. Another approach is for the seller or exporter to arrange for a bank to give cash for foreign accounts receivable sooner than the seller would normally receive payment. Forfeiting. One method of doing this is forfeiting. Forfeiting involves the purchase of foreign accounts receivable from the seller by a forfeiter. The forfeiter takes on all of the credit risk from the transaction without recourse, and therefore the forfeiter purchases the receivables from the seller at a discount. The purchased receivable becomes a form of debt instrument such as bills of exchange, which can be sold on the money market. The non-recourse side of the transaction makes this an attractive arrangement for business, but as a result, the cost of forfeiting is relatively high. Forfeiting is usually available for large receivables amount over $250,000 and also is only for major convertible currencies. It is usually only available for medium term or longer transactions. Next, letter of credit. This is a further way of reducing the investment in foreign accounts receivable and can give a business a risk-free method of securing payment for goods or services. There are a number of steps in arranging a letter of credit. First bullet, both parties set the terms for the sale of goods or services. Second bullet, the purchaser or importer requests their bank to issue a letter of credit in favor of the seller exporter. Third bullet, the letter of credit is issued to the seller's bank, guaranteeing payment to the seller once the conditions specified in the letter have been complied with. Typically, the conditions relate to presenting shipping documentation and dispatching the goods before a certain date. Fourth bullet, the goods are dispatched to the customer and the shipping documentation is sent to the purchaser bank. Next bullet, the bank then issues a banker's acceptance. Last bullet, the seller can either hold a banker's acceptance until maturity or sell it on the money market at a discounted value. As can be seen from the above process, letter of credit take up a significant amount of time and therefore are slow to arrange and must be in place before the sale occurs. The use of letter of credit may be considered necessary if there is a high level of non-payment risk. Customers with poor or no credit history may not be able to obtain a letter of credit from their own bank. Letter of credit are costly to customers and also restrict their flexibility. If they are short of cash when the payment to the bank is due, the commitment under the letter of credit means the payment must be made. Collection under a letter of credit depends on the condition in the letters being fulfilled. Collection only occurs if the seller presents exactly the documents stated in the condition. This means that letter of credit provide protection to both the purchaser and the seller. However, the seller will not be able to claim payment if, for example, goods have been sent by air, but the letter of credit stated that the shipping documents were required. Next is counter trading. In a counter trade arrangement, goods or services are exchanged for other goods or services instead of for cash. The benefits of counter trading include the fact that it facilitates conservation of foreign currency and can help a business enter foreign markets that it may not otherwise be able to. The main disadvantage of counter trading is that the value of the goods or services received in exchange may be uncertain, especially if the goods being exchanged experience price volatility. Other disadvantages of counter trade includes complex negotiation and logistical issues, particularly if a counter trade deal involves more than two parties. Next is export credit insurance. Export credit insurance protects a business against the risk of non-payment by foreign customer. Exporters can protect their foreign accounts receivable against a number of risks that could result in non-payment. Export credit insurance usually insures the seller against commercial risks such as insolvency of the purchaser or slow payment, and also insures against certain political risks, for example, war, riots, and revolution, which could result in non-payment. It can also protect against currency inconvertibility and changes in import or export regulations. Export credit insurance therefore helps reduce the risk of non-payment, but its disadvantages include the relatively high cost of premiums and the fact that the insurance does not typically cover 100% of the value of the foreign sales. Export factoring. An export factor provides the same functions in relation to foreign account receivable as a factor covering domestic account receivable and therefore can help with the cash flow of a business. However, export factoring can be more costly than export credit insurance and it may not be available for all countries, particularly developing countries. Other consideration: the purchaser may be able to get a local bank to guarantee payment to the exporter, but this may only be suitable in an arrangement where the purchaser has no power over the exporter. General policies for foreign accounts receivable. None of the method detailed above would allow the selling company to escape from the basic fact that credit should only be given to customers who are creditworthy. A seller should insist that any payment is made in a convertible currency and in a form that the customer's authorities will permit to become effective as a remittance to the seller. This may mean, for example, that the sale will be subject to clearance under exchange controls or any import regulations. Written by a member of the FM examining team. Test your understanding 7. In order to improve operational cash flow, indicate whether a company would need to increase or decrease their receivable balance and payable balance. Receivables payable: A increase, A increase, B increase decrease, C decrease decrease, D decrease increase. Answer T value 7, D decrease increase. In order to improve cash flow, a business needs to decrease receivables and increase the credit period taken from suppliers. T value 8, Olive PLC usually takes 2 months to collect its debt from credit customer. It has just issued an invoice to Elfie PLC for $100 and offers a cash discount of 2% if payment is made within 1 month. What is the effective annualized cost of the discount if Elfie PLC does settle within 1 month? A 27.4%, B 34.4%, C 20%, D 32.6%. Answer T value 8. Answer is A 27.4%. Calculations: discount as a percentage of the amount paid is 2 upon 98, 2.04%. Saving is 1 month and there are 12 upon 1, 12 periods in a year. Annualized cost of discount percentage is bracket 1 plus 0.0204 bracket close raised to power 12 minus 1, 27.4%. Test your understanding 9. The main aspects of debt factoring include 1. Administration of the client's invoicing, sales accounting and debt collection service. 2nd. Making payments to the client in advance of collecting the debts. 3rd. Credit protection where the service is non-recourse. A. 1 only. B. 1 and 2 only. C. 2 and 3 only. D. All of the above. Answer T value 9. D. All of the above. The main aspect of debt factoring include administration, financing and credit insurance. Test your understanding 10. Which of the following statements concerning invoice discounting are true? 1. Invoice discounting is the purchase of a selection of invoices by the provider of the discounting service of trade debt at a discount. 2nd. With confidential discounting, the client's customers are unaware that the business is using invoice discounting. 3. Invoice discounter does not take over the administration of the client's sales ledger. A. 1 only, B. 1 and 2 only, C. 2 and 3 only, D. All of the above. Answer T value 10, D. All of the above only. Invoice discounting is related to factoring and many factors will provide an invoice discounting service. In some ways, invoice discounting is similar to the financing part of the factoring service without the control of credit passing to the factor. Test your understanding 11. Which of the following statements concerning receivables management is incorrect? A. Credit limit should be reviewed periodically. B. Credit analysis depends on the provision of relevant information, for example, trade references. C. Delaying payment of invoices is likely to make receivables management more effective. D. Longer term credit may increase revenue but also increase the risk of bad debts. Answer T value 11. Answer C. Delaying payment of invoices in action relating to payables management, not receivable management. Answer complete. T value 11. And chapter summary: accounts payable and receivables, accounts receivable, credit policy, factoring and invoice discounting. See diagram below. Credit policy: liquidity versus profitability, collect now versus allow credit. Cost of financing receivables: finance cost is equal to receivable balance into interest rate. Giving discount: annual cost is equal to bracket 1 plus discount upon amount left to pay raised to power number of periods minus 1. Compared with overdraft finance. Assessing credit worthiness: all new customers and existing customers periodically. Setting limits: amount and length of credit. Collecting overdue debts: letter, call, withhold supplies, collectors, legal action. Monitoring the system: ratio, age analysis, statistics. factoring and invoice discounting, speeding up cash receipts, factoring outsourcing credit control, debt collection and administration, factors collects debts and pays to company less administration fees. With recourse basis, factor only pays collectible debts. Without recourse basis, factor pays value of whole debt even if not recovered. Credit insurance, factor insures company against bad debts. Financing, factor advances up to 80% of debt value to client, collects debts and pays to company less finance cost and admin fees. Invoice discounting, company is advance up to 80% of debt value, company collects debt and repays advance plus finance cost. Accounts payable, liquidity versus profitability, delay payment versus pay on demand, taking discounts, annual saving, 1 plus discount upon amount left to pay raised power number of periods minus 1, then compare with overdraft cost. This completes our chapter. Thank you so much.